Welcome to Artificial Insights. I'm your host, Daniel Beneri, and today we're closing out an incredible season. From uncovering the real role of AI in modern workflows to diving into practical, ethical challenges, this season has been full of impactful conversations. In today's special episode, we'll recap all the incredible topics we covered and share some of our favorite highlights. We also have a special guest. Say hello, not Daniel. Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me here. I'm looking forward to summarizing this past season. Let's get to it. To kick things off, you started the season with Anwar Jeffrey, founder and CTO of Glowstick. You talked about what it takes to launch an AI startup and learned that, contrary to popular belief, it isn't actually about being first or being the best.
This is probably a controversial take, but I listen to a lot of founders talk about what they want to build and how they're going to do it. I'm just like, doesn't have to be that smart. That's what's going to cost you time.
Yeah.
Time to market is one of your biggest things because of how long it takes to actually get AI across the line. The more complicated your AI solution is, the longer it takes to actually make it to production. So like if you want to make it to production and have something that's scalable, make it simple, make it done. Solve the problem. Don't build the coolest thing.
Next, for episode 2, you talked AI product management with Jake Walker, a founder currently in stealth mode. You learned that when it comes to tech solutions, especially those using AI, product leaders need to know and understand the problem they're trying to solve and not worry so much about the solution.
Why do companies make products? They make them to make money, right? And you can use traditional ladder logic programming. You could use simple JavaScript to show something on a screen and then some backend programming to compute things. Or you can use AI. So to answer your question, what do I think is AI? I think it's just another tool. That's really all it is. It's obviously a very sophisticated tool and has opened the doors to a significant amount of opportunity in the world where value can be created for people to do things that they typically couldn't do before. It's a tool. Obviously, you need very, very smart people to build it. And eventually, maybe it'll build itself. I mean, I don't know.
People are working on it.
Exactly.
So in that case, it almost sounds like, unless there's a unique case for AI might actually be a negative in terms of ROI because it has a higher upfront cost.
Big time. Yes. Which is why the best place to start any solutioning of solving problems is starting with the problem. Because when you start with the problem and you properly understand it, then you can do an analysis of figuring out what technology is best to solve it. You can hire the right people who are specialists in that technology and push it into market. If it so happens that the best technology to solve that problem is deep learning, then you hire a deep learning team. As long as the market is willing to pay for you to solve that problem.
Episode 3 was a fascinating conversation about AI on the edge with Mandip Kangia, founder of Vite HR and Hayflyer. You discussed the future of AI and how keeping up with the tech is only table stakes.
AI, that's the new normal word we can consider as our new phenomenon, but I consider it's a new phase of programming. AI is just a new phase of the programming which we were using since decades and decades, but it's now more powerful with the automation of data intelligence, and everything is on a fingertip. Will not replace humans at any cost or at any time, because humans are the one who is driving the AI and we are the one who is creating AI and using the AI.
Halfway through the season, you had a very special guest, Prana Kaul, PM at Panasonic Well. You talked about methodical AI entrepreneurship and how to make a real, tangible difference in business.
It happened around a week before our launch. We were doing some testing in store, and a lady came up to myself and a colleague of mine, and she was very upset because we were building a mobile app that could potentially take on roles or jobs of the associates on the floor. She felt that we are automating something that a human could do and we're taking away somebody's role. I had to mitigate that and help bridge the perception that, oh, these associates, we are training them, we're up leveling them, giving them new opportunities. They become consultants in the process. The idea is to augment them, give them superpowers versus take away their roles. Whatever roles humans previously played, so they had certain skills, they were trained on certain levels. We've seen that when a new technology comes in that takes away the need for that skill, there's a reaction to it. Humans feel like the demand for their skills is going to reduce, which means that how will they feed themselves? How will they survive and take care of themselves and their families? And they feel that they will potentially not be able to upskill so easily because this new technology will take on everything that they knew or have been trained to do for years. The only mitigation to that is remaining open, curious, and continuing to upskill. It's just the nature and powerful course of being in technology. And I don't think AI is a one time event where we are seeing this happen. It has been the case every couple of years. We had to relearn new technologies, relearn how to do product in a certain way, or relearn a new set of skills to ensure that we remain competitive and our skill set remains in demand.
In episode 5, you had the opportunity to nerd out about AI disruption and why most tech projects fail with Peter Carr, PhD and associate professor at the University of Waterloo.
Organizations are told you need to be more of a risk taker. The future is uncertain. The outcomes may be uncertain for what you're going to do with technology, but you really can't worry about that right now. You've just got to go for it. And I think that's really bad advice. I don't think any organization leader should ever do that. I think you can only make change if you are comfortable and confident that change is going to benefit the organization. And you shouldn't do otherwise. You're being it's basically irresponsible. It's one thing to undertake a pilot that is in a small part of your organization and to manage the change that requires. But to then spread a radical change throughout an organization requires the management of a revolution to some degree, which most senior managers have never been trained to do and have actually never done. That's a huge challenge for organizations to address. It's fairly easy to imagine scenarios and implementations of technology or applications of them that can have a wonderful impact on an organization. But to get people who can make that happen effectively is a challenge. What we've got in most companies are people whose capability that they were selected for in the job is based on their ability to make the organization run effectively every day, doing much the same, if not exactly the same, tomorrow as they did today. They're not necessarily people with aptitude for radical change. How do we effectively combine the business and technology parts of the organization? The business people, the tech people, how do we put them together? That question I've been dealing with for at least 30 years. All right, how do we effectively combine technology and the business?
I love that question.
Yes, well, I mean, it never goes away. I mean, and there is no simple, there is no quick answer to it. I think often when we discuss this question, people would like an answer which says, there's an easy way to do this. There isn't. The business people need to understand a bit more about the technology and they need to put work into doing that. The tech people need to do the other side of that and learn more about business. And then they have to be effectively combined in an organization that has good collaboration.
Next, you had a very special conversation with Adi Bacha in episode 6, founder of Suno Wellness, about the practical challenges of standing out in the sea of AI chatbots and the ethical implications of AI in mental health.
Users have tried hundreds of different apps. They install it. I mean, I do this. I install it. I try it. It seems weird. I uninstall it and I don't think about it. So you're going to be one of those apps. You can't be another chatbot. Like, I don't know your whole story of how amazing it might be. It needs to be cool and interesting now.
Yeah. And that brings me to a question that I think is a big one in this talking to chatbot space.
Yep.
How do you view that difference between a person and a chatbot? And I know you guys are integrating with therapists, you mentioned, so you're a service in addition to, not a replacement.
Yep.
But how would you describe that difference and recommend that people think about it?
Oh, that's interesting. I like to think of Suno as a support mechanism, not as your only support. For example, I have my partner, I have my therapist I see once a month, I have my family, and I have Suno. Right? So in between my sessions with my therapist, when I have a ton of thoughts to process and I think they mean something, but I don't know what, I dump them out on Suno. So it becomes this outlet almost amongst my other support mechanisms that turns around and gives me more support, but encourages me to still have those valuable connections.
One of the topics that I find very interesting as a sci-fi nerd is that artificial personhood concept. And I think it's really important not to pretend that it's a person when it's not a person.
Yep.
Because then you could have that weird kind of dependent relationship that ends up being destructive.
Yeah. That's why, if you've noticed, the app doesn't have a pronoun or an app art. And that was on purpose. The logo
Good choices.
is a shape of an ear to just be like, hey, it's a tool that is like a box that's listening to you. It's not a, it'll make you feel like it's giving you a warm hug, but it's not a person that is thinking about you. It's a weird fine line, but explicitly do not want to give it a face.
Episode 7 was all about how, contrary to what the internet says, AI won't actually take your job, but someone using it will. Chris Winder, director at OpenText, shared his insights on how AI is reshaping work. One of the other topics that I think is super big in AI is how is it going to impact broader society? How are we going to, not just jobs, but how are we going to use it and adapt to it? What's your perspective on that?
I do like the phrase, and I wish I knew who initially said it, was AI is not going to take your job. The person who knows how to use AI is going to take your job. There's nothing that I've seen that makes me go, holy geez, lots of jobs are at risk. I don't think this is like the steam engine to gas engine. I don't think this is like the car and the horse. I do think there are some jobs that will get downgraded from a full-time job to a part-time job, maybe unnecessarily, maybe it's actually a good thing. Last night I was at a UX symposium, and it was really interesting hearing one of the more senior women talk about it. And she said, this happened with print, and I was replaced until I wasn't. And then it happened when graphic design went out. And then I realized that I was actually never a graphic designer. I was a user experience designer. Are graphic design jobs going away? Probably not. Is the skill set valuable still? Yeah, absolutely. Will the person who is currently a graphic designer make the same amount of money in 5 years doing only what they do today? No.
And finally, you closed out the season with Chris Braun, founding CTO of RunQL. Can and should AI replace expert intuition? Should humans really try to automate everything they don't want to do? Should AI do something just because it will be better than humans at it?
Over the last several decades, BI, business intelligence, has been a big thing. And companies have spent billions of dollars effectively trying to democratize access to data. That's been the promise. You've collected all this data. Now your whole organization needs to benefit from it. So you need to open the access, open the kimono, and let everybody go free for all on the data to get the insights. But what these organizations have learned is that BI didn't actually replace the need for data experts providing insights from the data, because the interaction will go something like this. The business user will say, hey, I need the Q4 sales for this region with this nuance. And the data team will say, we built you a dashboard. The response will be some variation of, I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to interpret the data. Effectively, I'm not sure I would trust the insight that I got from it. And what it comes down to is there is a level of expertise in human judgment that they need to say, hey, this person who is actually an expert at interpreting data, did well in their stats course, they are giving me this interpretation. And so I think that's the same thing with AI. AI can be assisting in providing all the data points and the insight or the things that the right person needs, but there are some human judgment that gets into the mix that's quite essential in these high consequence decisions.
As we wrap up this season, I want to thank every single guest who shared their time and expertise. I also want to thank you, our listeners. Your support, curiosity, and feedback have made this season a success. If you've enjoyed these episodes, consider leaving a review or sharing the podcast with others who are navigating the world of AI. It makes a huge difference. Stay tuned for Season 2. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks for listening. I made this podcast because I want to be the person at the city gate to talk to every person coming in and out doing great things with AI and find out what and why, and then share the learnings with everyone else. It would mean a lot if you could share the episode with someone that you think would like it. And if you know someone who would be a great person for me to talk to, let me know. Please reach out to me at Daniel Maneri on LinkedIn, or shoot an email to daniel@maneri.house, which is Daniel@MANARY.HAUS. Thanks for listening.